What is just war? War with justification? War for saving a life? Or legitimated war? It's about just war. The first recorded war in human history occurred in Mesopotamia in BC 3000. It is even before the history of records. But the first war in human history must have been practiced by Australopithecus. In international relations, the first notice of war is Peloponnesian War. It is the war between allies of Sparta and allies of Athena. It is also a war between continental and maritime powers. We can divide the war in three phases. First, from the initiation of the war to the Peace of Nicias. Second, from the collapse of the peace treaty to the Sicily War. Last, Ionian War. Due to the war, Athena became the client state and subordinated to the Sparta. And Sparta finally became the regional hegemonic state. However, the war also made Greek staff and more civil wars. Thucydides wrote the Peloponnesian War and pointed the influence of the war. Thucydides said the war was unnecessary, but the threat of Athena made Sparta initiate the war. It is called Thucydides' trap. The rising of the secondary state threats the hegemonic state, and the hegemon initiates unnecessary war to remove the threat. Is it war with justice? It is not, because it was a necessary war, and it made everyone suffer in Greek. How about Crusade War? Pope Urban II initiated the first war. Although he said it is all for the God and reclaiming the Holy Land, it is certain that it was for taking hegemon back from European kingdoms to the Vatican. It was not for the God nor for the Holy Land. It was just for power. And it is absolutely not the war with justice. The rise of Mongolia stirs the history. Alexander the Great is one of the outstanding conquerors, but he was just conqueror. Genghis Khan is different. He conquered all the continent where horse can run. Also, he laid the foundation of UNCH Empire. The War of Mongolia linked the Western and Eastern civilization. But in the meantime, all people in the conquered area suffered. The reason of the war was to survive. They could not sustain their life without plunder. The war was the biggest plunder of Mongolia. It was unnecessarily overstretched. Constant civil war proves it. The history of Ottoman Empire is also on the same line. They are not war with justice either. How about 30 Years' War? It is called War of Religion, but it is war for power. It is ended with the Peace of Westphalia. The war settled the freedom of religion and the concept of sovereignty, and it becomes the Westphalia System. Though the war set the foundation of international law, it made all Europeans suffer. The war was just for the regional hegemon. Eastern Europe hegemon shifted into Russia, Western European hegemon shifted into Britain. It shows the 30 Years' War was not for just reasons, but for just power. How about Napoleonic War? Napoleonic War occurred for the threat of spread of French Revolution. From the west side, Britain, from the east side, Austria and Russia evoked the war against France. Continental blockade, French invasion of Russia, Battle of Waterloo are the points of the war, and none of them is just. They were all for power. How about the First World War and the Second World War? As you know, they just made all states suffer. Trench warfare in the First World War established the concept of PTSD. Nationalism became the fascism, and the fascism became the discrimination. There is no just war, there is just war. How about self-defense? War is born to be offensive. It's absolutely opposite to defense. And self-defense is limited by UN Charter Article 51 and customary international law. It needs to fulfill necessity, proportionality, leaving no other choice until UN Security Council takes its measure. If self-defense evokes the war, it is no more self-defense. Just war theory suggests jus Bellum and jus in bello as ethical principles. The idea of just war theory originates from Augustinus Hipponensis, who said Bellum means there must be the just reason to initiate the war. War should be initiated by the king, president, or prime minister. And war should be initiated for just reasons such as saving life or ending war. Jose Bellum means measures to practice the war must be just. It is quite modern concept. Politics understood the war as one of the political measures they can choose. If a colorful Clausewitz said, war is a mere continuation of policy by other means. Hague Convention and Geneva Conference improved the concept. They suggest the principle of distinction. Distinct the soldiers and civilians. Distinct the military facility and civilian facility. Distinct the soldiers and prisoners. Also, they demand to distinct the weapons. Atomic, biological, and chemical weapons are regulated. Some traps that cause unnecessary pain are regulated. Even they ask to protect nature and cultural properties during war. It makes impossible practice the war, keeping all these principles. How about war authorized by UN? UN Security Council can authorize the use of force with a resolution based on UN Charter Chapter 7, Article 42. However, UN Security Council is also a political institute. If any of P5 denies the resolution, there can be no authorization. Any war related with US, Russia, Britain, France, and China is almost impossible to regulate with UN Security Council. Also, UN Security Council resolution usually comes after the initiation of war. Therefore, there is no war with justice. Despite of this fact, every state insists their war is for justice. Hitler, NATO, US, and Russia did so. Next time, let's find out what they insisted and how they are wrong.